Hi there, my name is David Watts. I'm the strength and power coach from the Melbourne Demons. Val have asked me to do a quick presentation on innovative methods that we've used during the COVID-19 outbreak and managing the remote training during this period. Uh, my quick estimation of the situation, I didn't think now was the time to be innovative, rather to be just practical and pragmatic with the situation, to understand the best possible way to keep our players conditioned during this period. So the following is a quick rundown of how we've gone about making sure they're strong and fit and ready to go once we're back into training. Firstly, the considerations that we took into account. What equipment will each player have? I mean, this is key. We need to understand what they've actually got access to program for them appropriately. Secondly, look, we won't be able to coach face to face. So what we do put in place has to be simple, has to be effective. We need to minimize the risk of soft tissue injury on return to training. So our programming has to reflect that. We need to minimize the risk of catastrophic injuries, ACL, shoulder, etc. So we need to make sure they're conditioned and ready for that when they return to training, return to football. And finally, we need to keep our players strong. One key thing that came out of this was they're only ever going to be able to train pretty much by themselves or in certain situations with one other person. So, look, football is obviously going to be compromised. Their training of the skill of the sport's not going to be great, but can we keep them strong? Can we keep them fit so that when they return to training, they're ready to go from that aspect and they can focus on getting their touch back? And finally, we need to keep the players busy. This period, obviously, they've suddenly got an increase in free time, so we need to come up with ways to keep them happy and to keep them working on other stuff. So equipment, prior to the shutdown, we kind of saw the writing on the wall and decided to get in contact with Outfit and get a couple of little bundles put together so the players had something to work with straight away. The first of which was a small $200 deal where a couple of dumbbells, some sliders, and some mini bands. I chose some 22.5 kilo dumbbells because I felt it was like a weight that was heavy enough that they could get some reasonable load in, but also light enough that it could be used across the widest possible variety of exercises. So obviously not perfect, but gave us something to work with. The other reason for the 22 and a halves was I thought if the players wanted to recoup any of their money afterwards, it's a standard sort of weight used in CrossFit, and they could easily sell them back to a gym if they wanted to. Sliders, anybody who's used sliders before knows how functional they are and how many different exercises they can be used for getting out of the sagittal plane, and we can do some more adductor work, some more hamstring work. A key thing that we have in our programming is eccentric slide outs for the guys who have this kind of posteromedial knee pain and they can't do Nordics the way that they want to. So we find them to be fantastic from that regard. And then obviously mini bands for our glute work and hip flexors and whatever else. One heavy, one light should really do the job. Second, we worked on putting together just a home barbell freestanding rig set up together. So that was relatively cheap for really high quality stuff. And I guess I worked pretty hard with the head of sales to make sure that each individual player got exactly what they were looking for their home gym. Some of these guys were actually willing to spend a considerable amount on getting a really nice setup. And then obviously some of them weren't interested in spending any money whatsoever. I mean, the players have had a significant pay cut as well, so you had to be mindful of that when, the directive on their programming and helping them get equipment and that sort of thing. So for a lot of those guys, once the shutdown finally happened, it was about distributing out as much of our gear from our facility at Casey and from Amy Park, and that had to be done collaboratively with the other teams that train out of there, the Storm and the Victory, but that was managed pretty well. What we did find, fortunately, was some athletes already had quite good home gym setups, and I'll show that in a sec. So home gyms is an example. So you got a trap bar, it's got a decent number of dumbbells, got a box, got a rig, pretty well set up overall. Watt bike, ski erg, like that's more than enough to get the job done. Assault bike, plyo box, trap bar once again, rig with some chin ups and decent amount of space and matting. And then this last one even has like a little Pilates reformer in there. So some of our sort of higher level guys have been around for a little bit longer, actually did have decent gym setups. So we knew we could actually get some decent programming into them. Uh, there are a few athletes, obviously, though, that don't always stick to the job. I'll show that. So, this example popped up on Instagram a couple of days ago. Uh, Melky doing whatever he can with a couple of heavy fertilizer bags, but I'm doing him a bit of an injustice here because he actually has gone ahead and purchased a decent setup. So we're making it work with whatever we've got at the moment. All right, so the programming. This was delivered through TeamBuildr. I've used TeamBuildr for a number of years now. I find it to be a really, really effective tool for delivering programs. All the players had the app set up on their phone, so there was no issue. They've used it before on Christmas break and when they've been away from the club, so that was fine. That was good to go. I just changed, I guess, the bracketing of players. Prior to them leaving, I would have had a standard program, a high volume program, a lower volume program, and an LTAD model. Once the players were put into shutdown, I broke them up into basically a full program. Those ones who had a full gym setup, dumbbells only, players who had a decent set of dumbbells but no barbell trap bar access, and then a bodyweight program for the guys who just didn't have access to anything. So here's our full program. Uh, Basically, your key lifts Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we've got upper body days on Tuesday and Saturday. Tried to make these reasonably big and keep the guys interested over this time. A couple of key things that we've got in here. On our Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we added in what we call just like a simple lower volume jump land work. So some 90-degree hops, skater hops, and then just some conditioning around the hips as well. Uh, Nothing too new or innovative there, but I've just used exercises that I knew they'd done before and they were going to be able to competently do at home by themselves. And then into the key lifts, simple, complex at the front end on the Monday. Got some work around the glutes, hip flexors, simple press to be paired with their Nordics. Nordics we're doing twice a week, Monday, Friday. Really want to keep up that consistent eccentric exposure across this break and make sure that they're hitting them. Then on a Wednesday, I do have that single leg barbell RDL, but obviously this isn't quite as intensive and eccentric as our Nordics are. Super maximally Monday, Friday. On that Wednesday, we've got a reverse lunge to step up, a little bit more shoulder work and some more core stuff. Core program, as you've seen, they've got some extra there on Thursday and on Saturday. We're just trying to keep them as busy as possible there. I'll show the core program in full later on. And then the upper body on Saturday and Tuesday, trying to make sure those shoulders are still conditioned when they get back into football and into contact. So dumbbell only program, very similar to the main program, just with a few modifications. Obviously in the previous one, I had a trap bar here on Monday. I've just got them doing some single leg squat off box, reasonable amount of volume there with 5x5. Then over here, say on the Friday, like I would have had barbell RDL from the main group, going heavy and really chasing it there. So here I'm just going dumbbell RDL. Most of the guys, that's going to be around about a pair of 22s, as I explained before in that little pack. Look, it's not ideal, but they've been coached in just spending a little bit more time on attention and having a real focus on that eccentric tempo. Weighted Nordics, obviously they're there on both days, on Monday, Friday, as they were in the main program. And then from that regard, there's not a huge amount of difference between the main program and the dumbbell only program. Just those key things around where the barbell has been or the trap bar has been, finding an appropriate fix to go in there. All right, on to the issue of no face-to-face coaching. Obviously, we won't be able to coach our programs with the players directly. So, with this consideration, just had to use simple programming, had to use exercises that I'd already done before, and ones that we knew were going to be effective. So I've been using a dumbbell Bulgarian or barbell Bulgarian across the entire preseason. That goes in there, doesn't drop away because of I need some variation or anything like that. Now's not the time for variation. Now's the time to just keep things ticking along and going well. But that being said, if I was to introduce new exercises, we've got the functionality with TeamBuildr being able to film any exercises that are new and add them into the program. So you can see in this little picture here, like that little red camera, I click on that, it took them to something new. I mean, I had two players text me this morning asking about a new hip flexion exercise that was on there. So boys, just click on that red camera, simple done, and they knew what they were doing straight away. So I was just using YouTube and TeamBuildr, and then WhatsApp was being used across the entire group so that Burjo's just got constant communication with them all. And they've got any updates on changes to the running program as they needed it. And personally, for me, we didn't want to have everybody talking to players again and again and again because there's a lot going on already. So I tried to keep my contact down to as little as possible, but just send out nice big group emails that sort of covers off changes to the strength program. On top of that, and next thing was just some simple off-feet conditioning and core work to keep the guys busy. So keeping the players busy, a couple of examples up here next to the off-feet conditioning section. It's one of our players asking about some simple little circuits he could do. I've tried to put in some stuff that's relatively simple, but should give him a decent workout. So a little ski erg snatch EMOM there with some efforts on the watt bike. It's nice when you've got a player who's actually got a pretty decent setup at home and you can put together some good little off-feed sessions. Similar sort of thing here, and then some variations on the watt bike. And then down the bottom here, just some extra core work going across the group. Pretty comfortable. Like we'd used this prior to them going on leave. So they knew all these exercises and knew the progressions that were there as well. So obviously, not everyone is up to an overhead pull-off press, controlling it well. And they knew their progressions and where they were at. So that helps sort of fatten out the program and keep them busy on a Thursday as well. And then finally, just something that I did with a couple of our boys who are sort of more a higher hammy risk. It's just something as simple as a little video to let them know that I'm out here chasing fascicles on a Sunday morning, just like they should be. So just little things to keep the boys engaged. We do have a little private Instagram account that I won't be letting anyone know about, but just enough to I won't be letting the name out. Somewhere that they could touch base and chat to each other and put up some laughs for the group and stay connected. So all in all, hopefully we are back to work soon, and I'm back out there doing solid acceleration and speed sessions with the boys on a Friday morning. But for the time being, we're having to be as pragmatic and practical about the situation. But a nice thing that's come out of this is that the athletes do have plenty of time to train. Even if it isn't in the best of conditions, they're finding a way to get the job done. So hopefully you've gotten something out of this. Nothing too new, but just trying to think of smart ways to get around the problems that face us. Cheers.